Hi everyone, this is William from the Headphone Experience, and I'm here tonight with my full review of the Hifiman Arya Organic. And I apologize for it being so long. I had a ton of equipment to review, and it's been my busy time of the year as far as my lawn care business. So finally getting around to doing the full review of this. I did do a couple of comparison videos. I compared this to the Arya Stealth, and I compared this to the HE1000 Stealth. But anyway, what I'm going to do here is I'll quickly go through the specs and details and all that, and tell you what equipment I used, and then I'm going to talk about sound a little bit, and then I'm going to do some comparisons to some other headphones and tell you what I think of this. So anyway, but I will tell you, I really do like this headphone, and I've had it for quite a while, so I've had a lot of time to put into it. Spent a lot of hours listening to this with a lot of different amps and decks, so I think I have a pretty good idea and feel pretty confident that I can give a good assessment of this headphone. So let's get into it. This is a full-size, over-the-ear, wired, open-back headphone. It uses planar magnetic drivers. It has stealth magnets, and the very short version of that is the magnets in a planar magnetic headphone usually run across the membrane. And in the older headphones, those magnets, if you looked at them from the end, would have been square or rectangle. And the stealth magnets are basically a half circle that are rounded on one side. So when the sound waves pass over them, there's less distortion caused by sharp edges on the magnets. So, and most Hifiman headphones are now do use stealth magnets. This headphone has a very low impedance of 16 ohms, so it's pretty easy to drive. It has a sensitivity of 94 decibels. This is one of the easier planar magnetic headphones, and it's easier than the older Hifiman Aryas. It weighs in at 440 grams, which is about average for a full-size headphone of this size. It comes with a detachable cable, and it uses the standard 3.5 millimeter connections at the headphone end, and it has a 6.3 millimeter or quarter-inch connection at the amp end. This cable, I should have untied it out of the knot it's in before I did my video, but anyway, it's about a meter and a half long, and I don't know if you can see it or not, but it is covered with a nice cloth material, so it is nicer than the previous Hifiman cables that had a rubber coating. I like this a lot better. Unlike the HE1000 Stealth, this does not come with a balance cable also. That one comes with two, and I don't think I mentioned it, but this currently sells for $1,149 US. And when I did my first impressions of this, and that's been probably about 4 months ago, this actually sold for $12.99. So it's come down $150 since the time that I did my first impression. So Hifiman just keeps doing that. They keep bringing prices down lower and lower and making it harder for other companies to compete with their headphones in the same price range. So anyway, let me roll in just a little bit. I'll try to show you the headphone. It looks basically the same as the older Arya. I've reviewed the version 1 and the Stealth. I didn't review the version 2, but from what I hear, the sound was almost identical to the version 1. Version 2, or the version 3, the Stealth version, had quite a bit different sound. This one looks the same as the Stealth, except it has the wood on it, which I believe it is a real wood, but it's not a wooden ear cup. It's a plastic ear cup with a thin wood veneer. But they've got the typical Hifiman egg-shaped ear cups, and does have aluminum yokes, aluminum grills, standard headband for the Aryas, and You can see the ear pads are tapered, lots of room for your ears, room to move them up and down, and that can change the sound stage a little bit. Doesn't really change the tone, but it can affect the sound stage. But you got your click adjustments here, and nice and swivel, and they appear to be well built, and they are very comfortable. The only issue I've had is the Hifiman egg-shaped headphones ride kind of low on my jaw. And I do occasionally have problems with a little bit of TMJ, and it can irritate that after an hour or so. I might have to take a 5-minute break, but not a big deal. Other than that, very comfortable. So, doing this review, I've listened to a variety of music, everything from rock, different types of rock, a lot of classic rock, some pop, some electronic, a lot of acoustic music. I like acoustic music with female vocals to do headphone reviews, because acoustic instruments and female voices are just very hard for headphones to make them sound right, make them sound natural. And that's a good test of a headphone. If it can bring out the textures and nuances of a female vocal, or make a piano or an acoustic guitar, or a violin, an oboe, something like that sound real, then that headphone's going to get a high score from me. So anyway, threw in a little bit of orchestral music also, but not something I listen to all the time. So my reviews doing this, I use CDs, and I use 2 different CD players, both as transports. One was the SMSL PL200, and the other was a Cambridge Audio 540C. And then I used a couple of different DACs, the topping D70, what was it? I can't remember, the older D70. It's actually sitting up behind me here. And anyway, that was the older D70, and then the newer D70 Pro, and the Audio GD R8 MK2, which is an R2R DAC. And as far as amps, I use the Audio GD Master 9, the Hifiman Prelude, the Felix Audio Echo and Elise, both OTL tube amps, as well as Audio V8, another OTL tube amp, the Waveborn Power Amp Plus, which you can see sitting right here, which is a transformer, coupled tube amp, and then a few different combination amp DACs, which would be the Hifiman Serenade, the Hi-Fi Neo IDSD2, the Hifiman EF400 and EF600, which you can see sitting behind me here, and the Burson Conductor 3 reference. I think you can see that sitting right here. So, getting into the sound, I would describe this headphone as being a little bit on the warm side of neutral, but not drastically, just a little bit. And I would describe the tone balance as being a little bit V-shaped. It's not completely neutral. There's a little bit of emphasis in the bass and a slight emphasis in the treble. And I'll talk about that in a minute, because not everybody wants that, but it does make for, a bit, it's pleasant, but it's exciting at the same time. So, extension. I would describe the extension as very good, excellent actually, in both respects. It goes very low into the low frequencies, and it goes very high into the high frequencies. I hear absolutely no treble roll off with this headphone, and like I said, it extends deep into the sub bass. In fact, I would say, I'm going to tell you right now, I think that the Arya Organic has the best bass of not only all the Aryas, the previous Aryas, but I say it actually has the best bass of any Hifiman headphone I've heard so far, and I've heard most of them. There's only a couple of Hifiman headphones that I've not heard yet. So anyway, excellent bass. The sub bass, it's got some weight to it. It's got some rumble to it. It goes deep. It's the best sub bass of any of the Hifiman headphones. There are a few, the closeback headphones, like the Sundara closeback or the R9. Did not like the R9. The bass sounded muddy. It might have more bass than this, but this is much better quality bass. The mid bass in this, it has substantial weight. It has texture. It has it it's got punch to it. It's dynamic. It's just really really good bass. Like I said, I've heard more expensive Hifiman headphones, and I'll compare this to a few in a couple minutes. But I can see why a lot of people would actually prefer this over the more expensive Hifiman headphones, because it just has more weight to the bass, and just it's going to be a big thing with a lot of people. Some of the higher end headphones from Hifiman, some people just don't think they have enough bass. So, but I'll get to that in a minute. The mids, nice and warm and rich, similar to the Hifiman Arya Stealth. And the Stealth was a big improvement over the original Arya. The original Arya was very clean, very detailed, had a huge wide soundstage. Okay, then came the Arya Stealth, and it had better bass, more weight to the bass, better extension, a warmer, richer mid-range, which made the vocals sound better, but it lost that soundstage width. It had a much narrower soundstage, but this, it has that really nice tone balance of the Arya Stealth, but it also has that large soundstage like the original, and I'll talk about that more in a minute. But anyway, female vocals just sound really good on this, and a lot better than I thought that the original Arya did. Similar to the Stealth though. So the treble, some people are describing the treble as a little bright on this. I personally don't think it's too bright, but I will admit at my age, my hearing is probably in the upper frequencies, is probably rolled off a little bit. So I actually like Hifiman treble. It's not too bright to me. It's really, really clean, really sparkly, and there's no, a lot of headphones will have like one narrow peak in the treble where say cymbals or something, which are kind of the lower treble, are going to sound good, but then other parts of the treble just aren't there. Well, the difference with this is all the treble from the lower treble to the high treble are all there, present and very obvious, and that might be why some people find it a little bit too bright. So it's not really, in my opinion, brighter than the other Hifiman headphones. So if you like Hifiman treble, you should like these. But there's definitely a lot of detail there in the treble, and it's so clean that I don't find it fatiguing, because I would rather have treble that's a little more present but clean than a softer, easier going treble that's got distortion in it. The distorted treble, even if it's at a lower level, is going to fatigue my ears faster than clean treble at a higher level. So detail and clarity is outstanding. Very, very detailed. Not quite as detailed as some of the higher end Hifiman headphones, but I'll compare this to each of those in a minute. Soundstage. Very wide. I can't say if it's as wide as the original version 1 of the Arya, because I don't have that to compare to. But by memory, it seems to have the width of the original, much wider than the Stealth version. But this also has depth, and this definitely has more depth than the Stealth, and even more so than the original. The original had a very wide soundstage, but when I did my review of that like 4 years ago, 5 years ago, whatever it is, I did comment that it was kind of two-dimensional, didn't have a lot of depth. This headphone does have good depth to the soundstage, and that's not one of Hi-Fi Man's strong points. Not a lot of Hi-Fi Man headphones do have good depth, but this is one of them. I would say this and the HE1000 SE probably have the best depth of all their headphones. Well, the Sesfara too. So anyway, imaging, very precise, very pinpoint imaging. Each instrument has a very, definite place. It's not blurred together. Everything is separate. Very good separation of instruments. The instruments don't overlap. Each one has its own place in the sound stage, and you never hear them congested or mixed together like on a lot of headphones that just aren't the quality level of this. Dynamics, this headphone has a very punchy sound, not overly dynamic to the point of being fatiguing, but very enough punch that it sounds interesting, and things like rock and all that do, have a hard beat and drive hard enough to make them sound good. Forgiveness, and what I mean by that is, can you use this headphone with less than perfect recordings? Because if you get it up to something like the Sesfara, you're probably going to end up only listening to your best recordings. And this headphone is much more forgiving than the Sesfara. It's more forgiving than any of the HE1000 series. And it's really more forgiving than even the original Arya because because of that warmer, richer mid-range, and it just doesn't make defects in the recording stand out as much. It's actually pretty forgiving, and I can listen to almost anything. I've got about 500 or 600 CDs, and I can listen to just about anything with this, even less than perfect recordings, and they sound really good. In fact, a lot of them sound the best I've ever heard them. CDs that I've had for 30 years, long time. So anyway, comfort, I already covered that. Average weight for a full-size large headphone, plenty of room for your ears, and in my opinion, no complaints at all with the comfort. So I did want to compare this directly to a few other Hi-Fi Man headphones. Basically, I'll start with the original Arya. This has a similar width to the soundstage, but more depth. And this definitely, it has more bass, more weight to the bass, but the same tightness and control of the original Arya. And this has a richer, warmer mid-range, and in my opinion, female vocals and male vocals both sound a lot better on this than the original Arya, which could sound a little dry at times. Compared to the Arya Stealth, a little bit more bass out of this, similar mid-range, but definitely more soundstage width and more soundstage depth. Compared to the HE1000 Stealth, and I did a comparison video between these two probably about a month ago, and this does have more bass, even though the HE1000 Stealth has very good, solid, tight, punchy bass. This does have a little bit more weight to the bass than even the 1000 Stealth. The 1000 Stealth does slightly out-detail this headphone. Just a little, not a huge amount, but just a little bit better resolution, clarity, and detail. Other than that, they're pretty similar sounding. Comparing this to the HE1000 SE, and by the way, the Stealth is still at $13.99. So you're looking at about a $250 jump. It does come with two cables though, one is balanced. Compared to the HE1000 SE, which was originally that was a $3,500 headphone. Then it was $19.99. I think, and I'm not positive, but I think I've seen the 1000 SE for $16.99 recently. But anyway, compared to the 1000 SE, the 1000 SE does out-detail this a little bit. a little more than the 1000 Stealth does. It's another jump up. So it does have a little bit better detail, but you wouldn't ever notice unless you compared the two back and forth. This headphone has excellent detail. It's just that the 1000 SE is exceptional in detail. It's one of the most detailed headphones I've ever heard. It's actually up there real close to the Susvara. So the 1000 SE does have a little bit more detail and will etch out just a little bit more, but this headphone definitely has more weight to the bass than the 1000 SE. The 1000 SE actually has a little less bass weight than the 1000 Stealth, so this has more weight to the bass than either of those. The 1000 SE has a very large soundstage with really good depth, probably about the same width as it, maybe slightly wider than this and a little bit more depth. The 1000 SE has a very three-dimensional holographic soundstage, which this one is close, but it's not quite there. So the main advantage this headphone does have over the 1000 SE, it definitely has more weight to the sub bass and bass, and I could understand why some people would prefer this over the 1000 SE for that reason, or over the 1000 Stealth. Some people just want more bass, and to be honest, if I was going to listen to like classic rock or electronic dance music or something, I would probably pick this headphone over the 1000 SE because of the extra bass weight. Finally, I'm going to compare this to the Susvara. And the Susvara is still at $6,000 as far as I know. The Susvara, number one, takes a whole lot more power to drive. You need a much more substantial amp to drive the Susvara than you do this. And to be honest, to make the Susvara sound the way it should, you have to invest a lot of money in amps and DACs both, where this headphone is going to do fine off of, even a $200 amp DAC combination. But I mean, you get up to something like the EF400 or say I don't think you can see it, the iFi Neo IDSD2, which sells for $899, or like the EF600, any of those. Well, those actually, the last two have enough power, or all three of them actually, for the Susvara, but they're more than enough for this. Where the Susvara, you need more than just power. You need a really high quality DAC because it is so detailed. And I would say the Susvara is basically about 3 steps up in detail. You got this, then the HE1000 Stealth, just a little more detail, the 1000 SE, another small step, and then the Susvara, another step. But like I said, you're not going to notice a lack of detail on this unless you compare it side by side to a Susvara that has a proper DAC and amp hooked up to it. Now you're looking at a $10,000 system where you can have this. Actually, another really good option for this amp and DAC was the Topping E50L50 stack, which the whole stack went for, I think, $500. Did an excellent job with this headphone. So you can have what I consider almost end game, really you could call it an end game system for under $2,000 with this headphone, where the Susvara, you're looking at easily $10,000, probably more like $12,000 or $15,000 to get an amp and DAC that's going to bring out the best of that headphone. And nothing bad about the Susvara. It's just an expensive headphone, and you need expensive equipment to get the best out of it. The other thing is, this does beat the Susvara in one place. It does have more weight to the bass. The Susvara does have decent bass, but that's really dependent on the amp. You need an amp with a whole lot of wattage and a whole lot of headroom to get decent bass out of the Susvara. If you underpower the Susvara can sound really thin and lack bass, where that's not going to happen with this headphone. And even at its best, the Susvara does not have the bass weight that this headphone does. So once again, if I was going to listen to rock or pop or something like that, I would probably pick this over even the Susvara, and totally understand why some people would choose this over the Susvara if they had the choice, just because it costs 4 times as much, actually, 5 times as much, doesn't mean that everybody would prefer the Susvara. This headphone may be the end game headphone for 90% of you out there. I don't think you're going to have to go any further. So, my conclusion, this, in my opinion, this is the best Arya so far by a long shot. It's just better than the previous Aryas. It has the best bass of any Hi-Fi Man headphone that I've heard, and I've heard most of them. Some people are going to like this more than the 1000 Stealth, the 1000 SE, or more than the Susvara even. You don't have to put a bunch of money into the equipment for this. It doesn't require a lot of power, and it doesn't, most DACs, even in the $200-300 range, are going to provide plenty of detail for this headphone. And so do I like this headphone? I love this headphone. I really do love this headphone. And in fact, this headphone is a strong contender for the headphone of the year this year. For 2024, I realize we're only 7 months into the year, and we've got a lot of time for other headphones to come around, but right now this is definitely a contender for headphone of the year. So I highly recommend this headphone, and in my opinion, this is an end game headphone at a very reasonable price. And I realize $1149 is not a low price. That is very substantial. I mean, 6-7 years ago, I never would have imagined spending that much for a headphone, but I didn't realize how far headphones could go. And this is, like I said, this could be an end game headphone for 90% of the people out there. And, even against some of the higher end headphones from Hi-Fi Man, and compared to pretty much everything from other companies at the same price, I mean, I don't think you're going to find better for the same price, or even, quite a bit more. So anyway, once again, highly recommend this headphone. I love it. And I appreciate watching my video. And if you haven't gave me a thumbs up yet, please do. If you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel, please do. And the Headphone Experience on Facebook is now up to 32.9 thousand members. If you're not already a member, come join us. Lots of great people there. Once again, thanks for watching my video.